Hello, Raptors Nation. Sean Davis here for the Raptors Nation, your home for everything Raptors. The Raptors unfortunately drop a must-win game to the Boston Celtics with play-in positioning on the line. This is the very first edition I podcast. We were hoping, Luca, that we could talk about a Raptors win, but they unfortunately lose. Luca Rosano joining me as always. Luca, how you doing, man?
Yeah, it could be better, Sean. I'm excited though. This is our first Raptors Nation live stream, which is always a good thing to see. And yeah, I mean, as Sean alluded to, it would have been much better to ring in this live stream edition of the pod with the Raptors win. But the Raptors couldn't get it done on the road against the Celtics. They did make it a game, but the frustrating part, Sean, the Raptors lose this game as the Celtics didn't have Tatum, didn't have Marcus Smart, didn't have Al Horford. Obviously, didn't have Pritchard, and they've been without Danilo Gallinari while the Raptors fully healthy in this one. And both these teams were on the second night of a back-to-back, so you couldn't use that excuse. I would actually argue that the Raptors should have been more rested in this one because they just played the Hornets, who are basically the B team Hornets at this point, while the Celtics had to go up against a 50-piece by Joel Embiid and that very, very tough Sixers team. So, yeah, the Celtics, they showed no signs of slowing down in this one. They did not let up, and you got to credit them. Yeah, without Jason Tatum, they got it done. Jaylen Brown was huge in this one. Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White. I mean, this was a team that just refused to let their foot go off the gas pedal. The Raptors, like I said, they did make it interesting late, but, I mean, we're going to talk more about this. They just needed more from Fred VanVleet. And I saw a tweet right before we started the show, and it's true. And I hate to kind of start the show by pinpointing Fred VanVleet's shortcomings, but in a game of this magnitude, you need Fred VanVleet to play a lot better. And we're starting to see a theme with Fred. He puts up these big-time all-star-like numbers against bad teams, but then when he has to play good teams, Sean, he hasn't come up big. The Philadelphia 76ers, he had a terrible game. And now against the Boston Celtics, and what you said was essentially a must-win game for the Raptors if they wanted to move up the standings, he no-showed. He did not hit his shot through three quarters. He finally hit a couple shots when it was too late in the fourth. And now the Raptors find themselves in a position where, in all likelihood, they're going to have to win two games just to get into the playoffs. And we know now that the Milwaukee Bucks are the number one seed, so it would be against the Bucks.
Yeah, that's a scary part for me, Luca. I mean, they play Milwaukee tough. I just don't think they're gonna beat. I don't know if they have a shot at all to knock off a Milwaukee Bucks team. But like you said, Luca, 2 for 14 tonight from Fred VanVleet, 1 for 12 from the floor. Scotty Barnes, dude, Luca, just talk about him and the consistent growth we're seeing. Another 18-point, 8 rebound, 5 assist game. Also knocked in 2 threes on 5 attempts. So, Luca, how good has Scotty Barnes been as of late?
I feel like the Raptors are tanking because it's like this is the only thing that I seem to care about. And usually when a team tanks, you only zero in on their young talent and their development. And that's exactly what we're seeing from Scotty Barnes. Like I haven't even been moved or in awe of like what I've seen from Pascal and Fred. With all due respect, obviously those guys have put up some big numbers over the last couple of games, but it's more about like me just zeroing in on Scotty Barnes and seeing how he is that guy that is coming up big against the bad teams and the good teams. You know, putting up big numbers, shows up, arguably the best player on the court against the Sixers, and that's saying something with MVP Joel Embiid. And yes, I just made my MVP prediction. You know, against the Celtics, looking the part. Scotty Barnes, you can tell he's just growing. He's elevating his game. It's amazing to see, and I really hope the Raptors invest in Scotty this offseason. And I actually just sent out a tweet. I mean, I'm more interested at this point what's going to happen in this offseason and some of the moves the Raptors are going to have to make, and if they can put Scotty Barnes in an ideal situation for him to grow. And I'm more interested in that than the rest of this season, because when you look at the season, Sean, the writing is essentially on the wall. I mean, you just said a minute ago that you don't know how the Raptors are going to fare against the Bucks. I don't know how the Raptors are going to fare in the play-in. I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion this team's going to get out of the play-in. They got to win 2 games. And, you know, they're going to have to beat the Chicago Bulls. Granted, they've had the Bulls number, but DeMar DeRozan and company, they've been playing much better. And then I really don't trust the Raptors winning a game on the road, as they're going to have to go up against a Hawks team that all of a sudden looks good, and or a Miami Heat team in Miami. So I really, it's possible, of course, but it's going to be tough for the Raptors to win 2 playing games, one of which is going to, like I said, in all likelihood, come on the road.
Yeah, and really, really quickly, Joshua J here with a comment that the Raptors tanking with 2 games left. I think Luca was just alluding to that that's how he feels as a fan in terms like, like if you're a Spurs fan right now, right? Or like if you're a Hornets fan, right? We talked about the B team Hornets all year long. You've been looking at, okay, how's Mark Williams looking? How's some of our younger guys looking? If you're Pistons fans, okay, no Cade's out for the year. We're not making playoffs. Cool. How's Jaden Ivey doing? How's Jalen Duran doing? And King and Dominic Grove. And then another comment saying the Raptors need to start focusing on Scotty instead of doubling down on Pascal and Fred. I agree with that for sure. Luca, that's been something we've said in the past on the pod, and appreciate the comments. That's another reason why we are doing the live shows when to test these out. But Luca, that's kind of what we said a few weeks back, even like actually as far back as the trade deadline, that the Raptors, for their long-term growth and longevity as a team and sustainability and winning championships, you don't want to become the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NBA teams, meaning that for the culture, we're going to go and be just barely 500 every year, so much so that we screw ourselves out of a high draft pick and we can't really grow the team or speed up the retooling process. Because I think, going back to this comment, that's what this is going to be. I don't think it's a rebuild. I don't think you tear the house down. I think it's what this comment says here. I think it's you take Fred, you take Pascal. If you want to throw Gary in there too, fine. And then you see what you can get for pieces like those guys. And then you say, okay, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Jakob Poeltl, top 14 likely draft pick. Here you go. And I'll lay on my plan on this, Luke. I guess is a good way to kickstart into another conversation here. Again, this is going to sound bad, but I don't want the Raptors to win the play-in. I don't. Like, for what? Like, the only team in the play-in that could make any noise is still Miami. And that's like if it was Miami Boston, I rematch in the first round, I think Miami still matches up decently well with Boston. You can never count on a Eric Spoelstra team, a Jimmy Butler team. That could get interesting. But any other playing team is getting swept in the first round. Or maybe you win one game. Like, I'll give Atlanta the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Trey goes off one game. Maybe Pascal doesn't mean one game. Maybe DeMar goes for 45. So I'll give everybody one game, right? But that's at the most. So, Luca, am I crazy in saying that I don't want the Raptors to win a playing game?
Well, it goes back to what I've been preaching to the choir since the trade deadline. I never wanted to see this team get aggressive. I never wanted this team to go for it. And I wanted them to prioritize building around Scotty Barnes. And I wanted them to, I guess you could use the word tank, but not try as hard, I guess you can say, and position themselves much better in the draft and get another top tier and young talent to fit beside Scotty. Because this 2 timeline thing, people want to say it could work. People want to say it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. And, you mentioned the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's mention some NBA teams, the Washington Wizards, the Portland Trail Blazers. If the Raptors don't pick a side, they're going to be in danger of being one of those teams, just a team that knows its destiny at the start of the season, that they're not going to be really bad, but they're also not going to be really good. They're going to be dead stuck in the middle. And going back to the whole 2 timeline thing, you can't operate like that. You can't have guys who are in it to win it now and also try to develop young talent at the same time. Like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet. Yeah, you want to make the argument that these guys are in the primes of their career and they want to compete for championships? Absolutely. They could definitely go out and help championship contenders right now. But for what this Raptors team is trying to accomplish over the grand scheme of things, I think it was in the Raptors' best interest to take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward. Because really what they're doing right now, Sean, is they're treading water. They're trying to save this thing. They're trying to be optimistic, but in a way, they're being stubborn. You're only going to go so far with this 2 timeline system. You're only going to go so far with Siakam and Fred as your main guys. Why not just fully invest in Scotty Barnes? Why not continue to build through the draft, continue to groom this young talent, not give up on a guy like OG, give him a much larger role? Hell, even if you want to put, Gary Trent Jr. in that category, why not try that? And at least you have something to look forward to. Whereas you look at the group that's out there right now, we know their ceiling. We know that for as good as the Raptors can look in bursts, for as red hot as they can look for a stretch of games, we know it can only go so far. Deep down, the most diehard Raptors fan should be able to tell you that they can't see this team in a perfect world getting to a conference finals. Hell, even getting to the second round at this point. So at that point, it's a tough pill to swallow. You've got to take a step back. And I feel like a lot of the fans are seeing it, but management's not seeing it. And for whatever reason, they still believe that this current group can get it done with a center, that being Jakob Poeltl being brought in. But I just don't think this team can go any further than we just said. And I mean, maybe it would take something like you said, Sean, that the Raptors underachieve in the play-in. They don't even make it to that second game. They literally go one and done, lose on their home court, and then maybe that's the wake-up call management needs to realize, okay, you know what? Maybe we need a new direction here. Maybe what we're trying to do just isn't working. Because I have this funny feeling inside where it's like we all want to see changes. We all want to we don't want to see Fred get the extension, for example. But I have a funny feeling management might actually run it back with these guys for another season. And I could actually see Fred getting that extension with the Raptors, which would just send Raptors fans into a frenzy. But I agree. I mean, if the Raptors get out of the play-in, there's not much light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think anybody's predicting a massive upset for the ages at this point. Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, clearly a cut above the rest. The Raptors basically at this point are just, it's just a matter of waiting it out and seeing what they're going to do. But like I just said, I mean, I'm more interested in what's going to happen in this offseason versus this season because we all know deep down there's not going to be much happening to end this season.
Smooth Brown Man, I'm with a comment. Also, yet another one, so appreciate it. I'll start off with this one. Just discovered this show. Sean, I know you from Lakers Nation. I really believe it's Nick Nurse. He's the problem. And it kind of continues on to this comment. I'm already looking forward to the offseason, seeing who the new coach would be. I'm going to kind of read through these comments really quickly, and then we'll dive deeper into them. Joshua with a comment. Raptors are trying to have their cake too. Other than Scotty and OG, who are blah, 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 blah. Who on the young core is making the jump? It feels like the Raptors have forgotten how to develop their players. And then one last one, Smooth Brown Man, once again, the core was developed under Dwayne Casey. Is that something we're kind of under, like not looking further into? Is that the core, like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, I won't say OG, but like your two best players are Dwayne Casey guys. And granted, they had their best moments under Nick Nurse, but in terms of development and watching, that was under Dwayne Casey. And look, I'll say this and also really appreciate you guys for hopping in and throwing out questions. Again, that's kind of the purpose of this, especially if you guys know the Lakers Nation format. We don't have any awards or whatever. Maybe that's something we'll do long-term in the future, but this was more of a test run, a pilot to see how it would work, if you will. But I like Nick Nurse, the X's and O's coach. I don't like Nick Nurse, the skill/player development guy. Because and makes to a fall or not to a piece because like we said, right? OG hadn't had an upgrade in his offensive role. OG Anunoby has been the same player up until like the past 2 months or whatever. He's been the same player since the bubble. A guy where, except maybe he's taking more shots, right? Like give or take, right? Great defender, can shoot it a little bit. Not any isolation ability. Like if you watch OG Anunoby, especially in last year's like postseason run or whatever, if OG Anunoby tried to go create for himself one-on-one, it would get ugly real fast. He just hasn't developed, or he hadn't developed an offensive game up until the last or two, right? Who knows what the reason being is or whatever. I think it's more so just opportunities. And and more reps and things of that nature. But and yes, Smooth Brownman, this is relatively new. We've been doing Raptors Nation for since last season, the end of last season. So yeah, a year almost actually. So make sure you guys leave a like, comment, and subscribe and share as well. Road to 1,000 subscribers. I think we're almost at 300 actually. So make sure you guys do that. But Luca, long-winded question. First, what are some of your reactions to some of the comments we just got rolling in?
Yeah, first and foremost, shout out to everybody who's commenting. And yeah, I actually agree with that. I mean, Dwayne Casey was a big reason why Van Vliet, Siakam are the players they are today. And let's not forget, Nick Nurse basically got into the ideal situation. Anytime you can have a team that's been developed relatively well, and then you got at that time, arguably, and still to this day, I'm gonna die on this hill, one of the best players in the game in Kawhi Leonard. It's gonna be an easier job to kind of put everything together. And of course, the Raptors had Kyle Lowry, they had Marc Gasol, they had Serge Ibaka. So like everything went well for that championship year. Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. And it's funny because I wanted to bring this up on the last show, but then I totally forgot until after we ended the pod. But the whole Nick Nurse thing, right? So we didn't discuss this part. I know Sean and I touched a little bit about our opinion on whether or not we see the Raptors firing Nick Nurse. Essentially, we both said we don't see it for the summer. But I found it interesting that, and I'm paraphrasing here, after one of the most recent losses, Nick Nurse kind of
I know where
had
you're going with.
a reaction or an answer to a question that got a lot of people talking. And basically, and I'm paraphrasing, he said that he's going to take some time to think about everything and think about what he needs to do. So that got me thinking. It's like, damn, maybe the Raptors could be closer to a Nick Nurse firing than we think. And also, I think it's going to maybe fall on how the Raptors end this thing. Like you said, if they have a very big shortcoming and they lose the first playing game and this team doesn't even sniff the playoffs, does that open the door? I still think Nick Nurse does stick this thing out. But then again, if you stick it out with Nick, Udoka's in all likelihood going to be gone. Who's the next guy who can replace Nick Nurse's coaching duties? Watson's names come up. But where I'm going with this is, yeah, like, is there a chance Nick Nurse gets fired in the midst of this just horrible season? And if the Raptors do in fact go one and done in the play-in, are we not looking into that as much as we should?
I think when that, if anything, this summer, I think Nick would just step down. That's why I think if we're talking about a Nick Nurse Raptors ending the relationship, I think it's Nick Nurse stepping down. I just don't see the Raptors firing Nick Nurse. Not yet still. And I'm from that vantage point, I'm gonna hold my take that we did a couple of pods back, like Luke, blah, 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 like Luca just mentioned. I'm gonna hold strong on my take there. I don't think they fire him. That statement, like you just said, though, Luca, it reminds me like if I'm a coach and it's either I'm stepping down or I'm like really thinking like, okay, crap, like this is on me. I have to be better. Some things I like more so just the self-evaluation thing. So I think it's either really, really drastic and he's just gonna step down, or it's more so just like a regular self-evaluation thing. But in this comment, kind of, exemplifies what I think Luke was trying to get with. Again, Smooth Brown Man with a comment. Nurse is a good coach, but he's coaching like he sells the 2019 Raptors. First off, that's a hell of a point because my biggest pet peeve with the Raptors offense has been every shot is just freaking tough. Well, when you have Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry still being good at basketball, you can do that. And he's more of a closer team than he needs a chip. Exactly. So like if you are like that coach where you already have your legit superstar, you don't have to develop anything. You have your superstar in place. You have your role players in place. You have good defensive players in place. You have good shooters in place. Nick Nurse is great enough. Dare I say elite enough to win you an NBA championship. But I don't think Nick Nurse, from a development standpoint, can take a motley crew of guys. I definitely probably that's not how that meant to come out, but you know what I'm trying to say, of guys and say, hey, look, you have to develop X, Y, Z. Here you go, right? And go get us a championship. I don't think that's Nick. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't trust Nick's development ability. As of right now, things in coaching can change drastically with time. But as of right now, really, as the past 5 years or so, and really, Scotty just had a lot of opportunity last year. I think that also factored into. I think Scotty was a great player. He just had a ton of opportunity. Smooth Brown Man with a comment again. He's probably coaching your Lakers next year. I doubt it. The Lakers, and I mean, I wanted Nick. Like, if there was any, because there was some, and even then, because now that he brings up the Lakers, remember back in the summer, Luca, there was like some very strange rumblings about Nick potentially like going to the Lakers. Like even
Yeah.
that, and we were saying like, no way.
We were
Like
laughing
Nick,
at it.
perfect scenario. Right, perfect scenario. He just came off a year where he reached and exceeded all expectations.
Yeah.
But the fact that it came up then even is kind of
Yeah.
weird, looking with the benefit of hindsight. So, but in terms of the Lakers, I doubt it. The Lakers, they just hired Darvin last year. The coaching staff in LA, I can tell you, they've turned it around. And I mean, it's you have to be really, really bad, and like the situation has to be really, really bad for you to change head coaches twice in 2 years in the NBA. Like, yes, this is the NFL. It does not happen as often in the NBA, I feel.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember that now that you bring it up. I actually did a video on it when, those rumors came out, and what a difference a year makes. It came out a year ago around this time, and we're all reacting to it like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, Raptors exceeded expectations. There's no way they're firing Nick Nurse, and
No
here we
way he
are a year
leaves.
later. Raptors completely have faltered, and conversations of Nick Nurse potentially being fired by this team are coming up again. So I guess we could get to this comment here by Joshua.
Yeah,
Can we talk about how we have? Yeah, you could take it. You could go ahead.
I was just gonna re-ask the question. I was gonna let you take it, but can we talk about how Wisekamp on a guaranteed contract sit on the bench, but Dalton, who played actual minutes for us, is still not converted? What is going on with this front office? And then he also adds in, feels like decision making with assets from the front office has been out of whack lately. Luca, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's been so many head scratchers of why certain guys aren't getting more minutes than they have. Yeah, like a perfect example is a guy like Dowden who's tearing it up in summer league. He hasn't really been given an opportunity to prove himself. You could go back with the whole Malachi Flynn situation, a guy who has literally had to, it seems, beg just to get some playing time. And there's just so many questionable decisions that have been made with some of these up and coming players, these younger players. And again, it goes on Nick Nurse of how he manages these guys and manages their minutes. And there is so much that can still be developed. And you try to play these guys more, see what they can give you, but it's like there's just a stubbornness at times with Nick Nurse's rotations and who he reserves minutes for. And there's a reason why these starters have been burned to the ground for the past season or so, because all of these minutes that they have accumulated. But it's like, when you're in this sort of weird season, why not show these guys who can develop into something more, some respect, and give them an opportunity to showcase their talents? And I just feel like that a lot of these guys have been shunned, and Dowden has been a prime example of that. I know a lot of Raptors fans want to see him do more and be given a bigger role in this team, and it's just one of those head scratchers. So I mean, there's so many things you can pinpoint to, in regards to Nick Nurse not doing a great job in certain areas. And look, I do believe Nick Nurse does deserve a lot of the flack as well. I know we're quick to point at players, criticize the top stars on this team, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you also gotta give Nick Nurse flack, just as we've given front office flack. Guys like Masai, Bobby Webster of doing, buying at the trade deadline instead of selling, which many people wanted to see. So there's going to be a lot that needs to be addressed this offseason, and I'm very curious to see how this team tackles it on. And yeah, it's going to be a big summer for Masai and company.
Really, really quick. I'm over here as you're talking, and I'm thinking about destinations for Frank Vogel. I mean, Jesus, not Frank Vogel, for Nick Nurse. Good gosh. Um, I think the most realistic landing spot, because I still think he's a top 10 head coach in the right situation, if not a top 5 head coach in the right situation. I think Dallas, in terms like most realistic, in terms of like situation that we talked about, where they're just a coach and some other pieces away. I think Dallas, and also they're competing. They have the superstar. They have the owner that will pay money. Like
Yeah.
they have that, and then also like in terms of situations that might appeal to Nick. Because I mean, and then like Luka, you could say defensively might be a larger Fred VanVleet. They're both liabilities defensively. I mean, Fred's a little bit quicker, obviously, and more agile, but I don't know. Like I think Dallas, if they parted ways with J Kidd this summer. I don't think they will either. I'm not as ingrained in Mavs culture or watching them as much as I am with the Lakers and Raptors, obviously. But if they did fire J Kidd, I think that's the most realistic landing spot. Although in that Shams article, did he mention like the Rockets being interested?
Yeah, no, that was one of the big names with the Rockets being interested, and of course, the Rockets also came up when talking about potential landing spots for Udoka.
Prodoka. Yeah. So, all right.
Very
Chat.
quickly, actually, I wanted to.
New Orleans.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I wanted to just break down these last couple of games and like the scenarios because technically the Raptors could actually find themselves in seventh. Smooth Brown Man says New Orleans or Chicago. I think. Yeah, at this point you can make a case for a lot of teams. So I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. And very quick on Dallas, they're also a huge mess right now. So we could do a whole show on them. But yeah, I quickly just wanted to go through the scenarios. So the Raptors actually still could get seventh. The Heat basically would have to lose out. He got 3 games left, and the Raptors would have to win out. Raptors got 2 games left. That's obviously unlikely. If the Raptors to get eighth, the Hawks have to lose out. Hawks have 2 games left. The Raptors have to win out. Again, the Raptors have 2 games left. And at this point, yeah, Chicago can't get Chicago can get ninth because the Bulls are 2 games back and the Raptors have the tiebreaker. So unless all shit, pardon my French, if all things hit the fan, Raptors would have a chance for seventh, but in all likelihood, they're getting ninth because I really don't see Miami going 0-3. Sean, if you look at their schedule, I think they have Orlando and Washington. So they're going to get a win in one of those matchups. But is there a possibility where the Raptors win out here? They beat the Celtics on Friday, who the Celtics know at this point they're locked into number 2. I think they're locked. And then they got the Bucks on Sunday, who are locked into 1. And the Hawks, they have Sixers and Celtics. So do you see a world where the Hawks actually go 0-2 and the Raptors go 2-0 and the Raptors get that 8 spot?
If the Raptors had won today, I would have said yeah, because then that would have put another loss on Boston's record. Boston would have then, and actually, I don't think it's possible for
Philly?
Boston for Philly to catch Boston. So yeah, no, I think worst case is Atlanta wins 1. I think that's worst case. I just don't see them losing both games, which sucks. But that's why, and from a Lakers standpoint, I get it. But like that's why I don't like relying on other teams. Like my thing is, you take care of business. It doesn't matter what any other team does. You took care of your own business, right? You if you help you shouldn't have to rely on anybody else. You know what I'm saying? And the Raptors have just put themselves in such a bad spot to where we're saying, hey, can the Hawks, can they please like just lose to the B team Celtics with nothing to play for and gamble on if the Sixers are going to play their guys. You know what I'm saying? So that sucks. And then and Joshua J with the comment says, I don't have enough faith in the Raptors shooting ability to get to 7th, even if the Bucks or Celtics are resting. LOL. Yeah, that's another thing. dude, I'm looking at this. This is so random, but I'm looking at this Hawks box score. What is up with Trey? Like, he's just like not shooting the ball anymore. Like,
They're
I mean, I
winning.
guess last
So
game he did against Dallas. He had 24 shots, but it's like, yeah, is like the theory like, hey, less Trey shots, more Trey passing? Because like in the
yeah,
month of March, Trey only averaged 16 shot attempts. It was 19. I mean, I guess technically, but like you go back to like November, Trey Young was averaging 21 shots a game. He still put up the assist numbers though, so I don't know. Maybe I have to watch an Atlanta Hawks game, unfortunately. I said unfortunately because you guys said listen to the pod back in the preseason. I was calling the Hawks out as frauds, and I'm gonna take a victory lap on that. I'm really quick because I didn't get really a chance to answer it. Smooth Brown Man, New Orleans or Chicago. I'm assuming this is referring to the Nick Nurse thing. I don't think New Orleans. I don't think either team fires their head coach. Not this year. Not even next year. Honestly, like New Orleans, it's like definitely a very valid excuse. Like, dude, we were the 4 seed before Zion. Messed up his hamstring. It's been out ever since. Right? Bi missed time with injuries. Valanciunas, I think, missed time with injuries. Obviously, I just mentioned Zion. I mean, I think CJ, I think everybody on that team has missed significant time with injuries. And then like they just they had a pretty surprising run last year, right? And now they're starting to get hot again. Last time I checked, they're beating the Grizzlies, so they can make a play-in / postseason push, especially if they get Zion back. And then Chicago, very similar thinking. I think it's early in the Billy Donovan era. And last year, before Alonzo got hurt, they were the 1 seed. I thought they were frauds, but nonetheless, before Alonzo got hurt, they were the 1 seed. So I think both teams, both coaches rather, have the excuse of, look, when our teams have been healthy, we've been really freaking good, and don't fire me. And also, they're both still like really early in their tenure. This is maybe year 3, if not, this is year 2 for Willie Green in New
year 2.
Orleans. And then I also think this is year 2 for Billy. So I just don't see it. No, this might be year 3. Because wait. Yeah, this is year 3. So I just don't see it personally. But Raptors all in all, thanks to a loss tonight, are likely most likely scenario is Raptors going to wind up as the 9 seed and have a date with the Chicago Bulls in Toronto. This storybook ending that Luka is very excited. Oh man, that's gonna be fun. So
yeah, the Raptors could potentially
DeMar DeRozan.
have a matchup against DeMar and Kyle. That would be something if they had to go through both of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's like some that's like a video. So like this is very off topic or whatever. It's like I've been playing like the superhero PS5 games. Like like you have a big fight in the game and you have the final boss. DeMar DeRozan is the big fight, and Kyle Lowry is the final boss to survive the play-in.
That's crazy.
So there we go. But
that's actually probably what's gonna happen. Watch.
Oh man. So this is gonna be a crazy ride. You're gonna be in the know with all your Raptors coverage here on the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. Ring that post notification bell as well. And as always, go make sure you guys check out the Raptors Nation podcast. This will be uploaded on the podcast feed tonight, hopefully. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to your podcast. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Thank you so freaking really appreciate all people that tuned in, whether after the show or live, asking questions and comments. This was actually, and I was expecting to have some fun. So you guys made it even better than I anticipated. Thanks, Luca, as always. Until next time, stay safe and see ya.